If you've ever stacked a pallet in your garage or watched a forklift haul one across a warehouse floor, you probably never thought much about where that thing actually came from. Well, let me tell you, there's a whole world of engineering and forestry behind it, and nobody does it quite like the Lefebvre Group out of Normandy, France. Tucked away in the small commune of Le Grand Vence, in the Seine-Maritime department of Upper Normandy, the Lefebvre Group has quietly built one of the most vertically integrated wood processing operations in Western Europe. And when we say vertically integrated, we mean it. These guys don't just mill timber. They go all the way from standing trees in the forest to finished pallets rolling off the assembly line. Every single step of the supply chain happens under their watch. The log intake process starts the moment raw timber arrives at the yard. Logs are sorted and scaled before they ever see a blade. At this stage, operators assess each log for diameter, length, defects, and species, determining the most efficient cutting pattern before processing begins. The goal is always maximum yield, minimum waste. Once sorted, logs move into the primary breakdown stage. Large diameter oak logs are typically handled by a bandsaw headrig, one of the workhorses of modern sawmill design. A bandsaw headrig uses a continuous loop steel blade running over two large wheels to slice through even the most stubborn hardwood with precision and minimal kerf loss. Compared to older circular saw setups, bandsaw technology wastes less wood per cut, which matters enormously at this production volume. The headrig operator, or in more modern facilities, an automated log turner and positioner, determines the optimal sawing pattern based on log geometry. After primary breakdown, the resulting cants, those large, roughly rectangular slabs of wood, move to secondary processing. This is where the real shaping happens. Resaws and edgers trim the cants down to specific board dimensions. An edger takes rough-sided boards and trims them to uniform width, cleaning up the edges in a single pass. Gang saws, which use multiple parallel blades to cut several boards simultaneously, are common in high-throughput operations and are likely part of the Lefebvre production line given their daily volume targets. Following the breakdown and dimensioning phase, boards move through trimmer saws to cut them to standardized lengths. A trimmer typically consists of a series of fixed or adjustable circular saws mounted on a long frame, and it can trim multiple boards in a single pass, optimizing for length while removing defect-bearing end sections. This keeps quality high and consistent, critical for a pallet manufacturer whose customers expect tight specs. The sawn lumber then heads to the sorting and grading station. Boards are evaluated for thickness, width, straightness, and surface quality. Modern sawmills increasingly use automated grading systems, optical scanners combined with density sensors that can inspect and classify boards far faster and more consistently than manual grading. Properly graded lumber is then stacked and, depending on moisture content requirements for the final application, moved either directly to the pallet assembly line or through a drying process. For pallet wood, kiln drying isn't always mandatory, unlike furniture-grade lumber, but heat treatment is increasingly required for pallets entering international trade under ISPM 15 phytosanitary regulations. The Lefebvre operation, dealing in commercial pallets that likely cross borders, certainly has heat treatment capacity as part of their compliance infrastructure. What makes this operation genuinely impressive isn't just the scale, it's the self-sufficiency. Managing your own forest harvest, processing your own timber, running your own assembly line, that's a level of control most manufacturers can only dream about. Every board that ends up in a Lefebvre pallet has been touched by their people, shaped by their machines, and quality checked at every step. In an industry where raw material costs can make or break a business, that kind of vertical control is a serious competitive weapon. West Virginia doesn't get nearly enough credit in conversations about American industry. People think coal, and yeah, coal built a lot of that state. But tucked into those Appalachian hollows, there's another industry that's been running just as long and runs just as deep: hardwood timber. And Cardin Hardwood's facility in Richwood, WV, is one of the better examples of how a serious hardwood sawmill operates in the modern era. The Richwood facility sits in Nicholas County, right in the heart of some of the best hardwood country in the eastern United States. The forests around Richwood are dominated by species like hard maple, cherry, red oak, white oak, yellow poplar, and ash, the kind of high-value hardwood species that furniture makers, flooring manufacturers, and cabinet shops across the country are hungry for. When logs arrive at the Richwood mill, the process begins with a debarker, a machine that strips the bark from incoming logs before they ever hit a saw blade. Bark causes excessive wear on blades and can trap grit and debris, so removing it first is standard practice in any well-run hardwood operation. From there, logs move to the primary breakdown station, where a bandsaw headrig makes the initial cuts, opening the log and converting it from a round log into manageable cants. What's notable at hardwood mills like Richwood is the attention paid to grade recovery. Hardwood lumber is graded by the National Hardwood Lumber Association, NHLA, system, a set of rules that grades boards based on the percentage of clear, defect-free surface area they contain. Grades range from firsts and seconds, FAS, at the top down through Select, Number 1 Common, and Number 2 Common. At a mill producing premium hardwoods destined for furniture and cabinetry, every sawing decision is made with NHLA grade in mind. The headrig operator is essentially a craftsman, reading each log and deciding how to open it to maximize the yield of upper-grade boards. After primary breakdown, cants move to a resaw and then through edgers and trimmers that bring boards to final dimensions. The green lumber, freshly sawn, still carrying significant moisture, is then carefully stickered, stacked with small spacers between layers to allow airflow, and moved into dry kilns. For hardwoods destined for furniture and interior millwork, kiln drying to the right moisture content is non-negotiable. Get it wrong and you end up with boards that warp, cup, or crack after they've already been installed. A quality failure no serious hardwood mill can afford to have attached to their name. Southeast Tennessee might not be the first place that comes to mind when you think about world-class hardwood milling. But that's exactly what makes the timber industry in this part of the country so interesting. The region sits at the edge of the Cumberland Plateau, a stretch of elevated terrain that runs from northeastern Alabama up through Tennessee and into Kentucky, and its mixed hardwood forests are some of the most productive in the eastern U.S. This is the territory where Cardin Hardwood Mills has built its operation in South Pittsburg, Tennessee, and it's a facility worth paying close attention to. Before entering the mill, logs go through a debarking stage. Debarkers used in hardwood mills typically fall into two categories: ring debarkers and Rosser head debarkers. A ring debarker feeds the log through a stationary ring equipped with scraping tools that rotate around the log's circumference as it passes through. It's fast, efficient, and works well on logs with relatively consistent diameter. A Rosser head debarker uses a rotating cutting head mounted on an arm that follows the log's surface. It handles more irregular and knotty logs better at the cost of slightly lower throughput. The choice of debarker depends on the log mix a mill typically handles. With bark removed, logs enter the primary breakdown phase. At hardwood mills handling a premium species mix, the bandsaw headrig is the preferred tool for initial breakdown. Bandsaw headrigs offer superior control over sawing patterns, produce a fine kerf and can be precisely adjusted to optimize the cut around a log's natural characteristics: grain direction, defect location, sweep, and taper. After the headrig opens the log into cants, those cants move to a gang resaw or a band resaw for secondary breakdown. Gang resaws use multiple parallel circular saw blades mounted on a single arbor, and they can rip a cant into multiple boards in a single pass, a major productivity advantage when you're running high volume production. Band resaws, on the other hand, offer more flexibility for variable thickness cutting and are gentler on the wood fiber, producing a smoother cut surface that requires less planing downstream. The edger station follows secondary breakdown, and it's where boards get their final width. Edgers in modern hardwood mills are often equipped with optimization systems, laser scanning combined with computer control that calculate the optimal rip pattern for each board in real time, balancing between maximizing board width and eliminating edge defects. A well-optimized edger can meaningfully improve the grade yield coming out of a mill by making smarter decisions about where to place each rip cut. Trimmer saws handle the length dimension, cutting boards to standard NHLA lengths and removing defect-bearing ends. The trimmer at a high-grade hardwood mill is another optimization opportunity. Boards are scanned for end defects, and the trimmer adjusts its cut points to remove the minimum amount of material needed to produce a clean end, preserving as much length and grade as possible. At this point in the process, the lumber is green, freshly sawn, and still carrying the moisture the tree had when it was alive. For hardwood lumber heading into high-value applications like furniture, flooring, or millwork, green lumber needs to be dried before it's ready for sale or further processing. The industry standard is kiln drying, using controlled heat and airflow in an enclosed chamber to drive moisture out of the wood in a controlled, predictable way. Hardwood kilns typically operate as either conventional steam kilns or, increasingly, as dehumidification kilns or even solar-assisted kilns at smaller operations. Conventional steam kilns are the workhorses of the industry. They use steam heat and fans to circulate hot, dry air through stacks of lumber, progressively reducing moisture content over a cycle that can range from a few days for thin, short-duration species to several weeks for thick, dense hardwood like 8/4 hard maple or white oak. The drying schedule, the programmed sequence of temperature, humidity, and air velocity settings, is critically important. Push too hard and too fast, and you risk drying defects. Checking, surface cracks, honeycombing, internal cracks, or warping. Too slow, and your kiln capacity becomes your production bottleneck. After kiln drying, lumber goes through a final grading and sorting process before it leaves the mill. For a facility like Cardin's serving hardwood markets, this final grade sort is where the product gets assigned its commercial value. Upper grade boards, Fast and Select, go to furniture manufacturers, cabinet shops, and premium flooring producers. Lower grade material finds its way to industrial users, railroad tie markets, or pallets. Nothing leaves a well-run hardwood mill without a clear identity and a clear market destination. There's something about the southern Appalachians that gets into a man's bones. The ridgelines, the hardwood hollows, the mist that hangs over the mountains in the early morning. It's some of the most dramatic terrain in the eastern United States, and it sits on top of some of the best hardwood timber land in the world. Right in the heart of this country, in the mountains of western North Carolina, two companies have put together a joint operation that reflects both the scale and the craftsmanship this region is known for. North State Hardwoods, Inc. and High Country Lumber and Mulch, LLC run a shared sawmill facility that processes the native hardwoods of the central Appalachian range, a timber mix that's as diverse and valuable as you'll find anywhere on the continent. Western North Carolina sits at the convergence of multiple forest communities, northern hardwoods that you'd recognize from New England, mixed mesophytic species typical of the central Appalachians, and some of the richest biodiversity in the temperate world. That biodiversity translates directly into a species mix at the log deck that keeps a mill running at high value. At the mill, the process follows the fundamental logic of any hardwood operation, but the Appalachian context gives it a distinct character. Logs arriving at the deck come from a mix of sources: private land harvests by local timber operators, timber from land clearing projects, and direct purchases from individual landowners. The western NC mountains are a patchwork of private ownership, and log supply relationships here are often personal and long-standing, the kind of business-to-business connections that get built over decades. Primary breakdown starts with the headrig, in all likelihood a horizontal bandsaw mill at an operation of this type. Horizontal band mills are popular in hardwood operations that handle a diverse diameter range and prioritize grade recovery over raw throughput speed. The log is secured on a movable carriage and passed through the blade, with the carriage returning for each successive cut. This system gives the sawyer maximum control over each cut, which is critical when you're working with high-value species like walnut and cherry, where every board matters. After primary breakdown into cants and slabs, material flows to the resaw and edger stations. In a joint operation like this one, you'd expect to see equipment that can handle a range of board thicknesses, from standard 4-4, 1-inch nominal boards, all the way up to 8-4 or 12-4 thick lumber for specialty applications. Thick-sawn hardwood commands premium pricing in markets serving furniture manufacturers and turning blank suppliers. And Western NC is geographically well-positioned to serve customers across the Southeast, Mid-Atlantic, and Midwest. The edger and trimmer stations bring boards to their final green dimensions before the lumber heads to the dry kiln, or, for lower-grade material, directly to the green lumber market. Air drying, the traditional method of stacking lumber outdoors under covered sheds to dry slowly over months, is still used at some smaller Appalachian operations as a low-cost alternative or complement to kiln drying, though most commercial mills today depend primarily on kilns to maintain consistent moisture content and meet customer delivery timelines. High Country Lumber's involvement in mulch production is worth noting as a model for how thoughtful sawmill operations handle their residual material. Bark from the debarker, slabs from primary breakdown, and other mill residues go directly into a tub grinder or horizontal grinder. Powerful machines that can reduce large chunks of wood and bark into uniform mulch particles in a single pass. The resulting mulch is then screened for consistency and sold into the landscape and nursery markets. It's a clean, efficient loop. The forest gives raw material, the mill extracts high-value lumber, and the residuals become a marketable product with real demand in the outdoor and landscaping sector. Together, North State Hardwoods and High Country Lumber represent exactly the kind of regional hardwood operation that keeps the Appalachian timber economy moving. Rooted in the land, practical in its approach, and smart enough to squeeze value out of every part of the log. It's hard not to respect that.